Hi folks, John Cordisco back again. Well, another game from the World Chess Championship 2018. This is game 5. So far we've had 4 draws, 2 of them really fighting draws, especially game 1. It looked like Fabiano Caruana was going to go down. Magnus just miscued and Fabiano survived. Game 4 was okay game. Double bishop pawns ended up being drawn. And here we are, game 5. As the white pieces, American Fabiano Caruana, and the black pieces, current world champion from Norway, Magnus Carlsen. Let's get to it. Caruana is white. Carlsen is black. Another Sicilian. Now, I'm not really sure. I believe this is the 3rd time the bishop to b5 spiel with the Sicilian here was played. I don't know if these guys are trying to psych each other out, or they're finding new lines and new moves, or they're just stubborn. It's hard to say. So let's go through the opening here. Don't really spend a lot of time on it here. That's a different move. Must be something Fabiano ran through his computer in his seconds. b4, very unusual. Very unusual. Knight c3, d3, even h3. b4. Of course, Magnus takes it. Bishop b2. a6 hitting the bishop. Now you hit the knight. Interesting. A takes, rook takes, bishop takes. Very, very interesting. Very unusual. Don't know what to make of this. The computer likes c takes b4 for black. And right a very close second is d6 and knight e7. I think Magnus took some time here, if I recall, and decided to just play d6. Sometimes you worry about the fact if you stumble into your opponent's preparation, and you don't want to be a victim of that. So b takes, knight e7. I think any of us would play c takes d6 in the second, and that is computer's first choice. But close second was queen e2 and knight a3. So queen a2, threatening to take the pawn with check. Just move it. Now here's the problem for white. This is really, really awkward. Where is this knight gonna go? It's gonna sit there for a while. It's kind of stuck. That's very awkward. c4, queen to c4. I think during the press conference after, they asked after queen to c4. It was pretty much a line that was known, at least to these top level players. And after queen to c4, it was new territory. I really don't know offhand. In fact, they asked Magnus and he kind of said in a polite way, none of your business. You know, he doesn't want to tip his hand the fact that he might have known and played this line out on the computer. Queen a5, c takes, bishop e6, hitting the queen. Now, as messy as this is, my computer off screen showed it as a tiny advantage for white, even though he's a pawn up. Interesting might have looked at was knight c6, and then d4, queen takes, d5. Very interesting. Because you can see, of course, what happens if the knight moves. Bang, it's mate. But after bishop e6, queen c7, it looks really bad for black. But oddly enough, it really isn't. Queen takes, pawn takes, knight c6. That pawn is corralled, can't get it. But White's problem now is his knight on b1. What's he going to do? How's he going to shake it loose? c3. Rook to d1 might have been interesting, but he just would have planted that knight on d4. After c3, king d7. Move the king up to get the pawn and get his rook. Black's rook in play. Pawn takes. Rook a8 first before taking back. Bishop has to move. King takes. Now look at this. Look at poor White. How's he going to get out of this? And the computer shows a tiny advantage for White. His knight can't move. It's the only major or minor piece that hasn't moved, by the way, on the board. The bishop on c3 is doing a heck of a job, but it's basically a giant pawn. This is uncomfortable, even though it's a tiny advantage for White. You always get the impression, the feeling that these things just aren't right. Now, interesting enough, Fabiano went d3. Move his bishop, get his knight out. But this is a move that one of the commentators that was subbing for Maurice thought a very computer move, but I think it's a very good move. And that's knight to g5. I like that move a lot. Forces basically the bishop to go back to f8. Knight takes, pawn takes. Or even bishop c4. There's a lot of alternative moves. But I'll tell you, I like that a lot better than d3. Rook to c1 I like a lot as well. Of course, the threat here now is pawn takes, because the knight's pinned. But I'm not Fabiano. He made an okay move, but I think it was the worst of the top three. The best being knight g5, rook c1 is second. And third by about a third of a pawn, which is a lot for these guys, is d3. I know what he was thinking. He's trying to get his knight out. He got tired of it sitting there. King b6. Moves the bishop back. Finally going to be able to get his knight out. Rook d8. Bishop checks. King b5. Finally the knight gets out. We're on move 23, and that's the first time that knight is moved. I thought he had better chances before, but hey, what are you going to do? It's tough against the bishop pair. King takes. Knight checks. Bishop takes, pawn takes, rook takes. Rook b1 is going to get his pawn back, of course. King goes to c3. He's way down in enemy territory now. Now be careful. That black king can get tied up in a mating net. Rook takes. And of course the backward move. You can play rook takes d3. Knight d8. Those backward moves are hard to spot. Rook checks. King takes. Black's up a pawn, but it really doesn't matter. King f1. h5. Magnus is looking to get something out of this, but I don't think he is. All those cooking pawns coming down, though, for black are nice. h3. Computer likes rook d6. Yeah. Bishop f6. Not so thrilled with that either. Bishop h8. That sucks too. So Magnus decides king e4. Knight checks. King f5. Knight takes. Knight takes. Rook takes. Bishop f6. And g4 check. And that's where they decided to draw on move 34. There's a 30 move draw rule even in the championship here, which I think for a world championship is a little ridiculous. I understand the organizers want a lot of people to watch and pay, and they want their money's worth, and I understand all that part as a businessman. But anyway, I thought it was a decent fighting game. It's just one of those games where white's position looked really, really bad. But at this level, these guys can tell it was basically white was even or slightly worse the whole time. It went back and forth, quarter pawn either way. It's one of those positions where the humans, this is where the humans differ from the computers, is the fact that you could tell it was extremely uncomfortable. Extremely uncomfortable. They had that knight sitting on B1 for so long, psychologically. And that's where the silicone chip doesn't really care. It has no emotions. Interesting enough, though, I watched the press conference video on YouTube. And one of the questions that the press asked both players was, who from the past in chess did you admire the most? And Caruana said, well, there's a lot of great players, but for his time and how he handled his games and extraordinary things he accomplished, you can't go wrong with Fischer. And Magnus paused there for a minute and says, well, I think I'll pick myself about 3 years ago. And everybody laughed. I thought that was pretty funny. The player he admires the most from the past is himself 3 years ago. So maybe he's admitting a little bit his game's a little off. He is getting older, 26 years old or whatever the hell he is. Man, I got clothes older than that. But anyway, in fact, both their combined ages are lower than my age currently, so that kind of sucks. But anyway, there you are, Game 5. Right now, it's 2.5 to 2.5. There's going to be a game tomorrow on the 16th, which, by the way, is my birthday. I'll be 62. And Saturday's a rest day. So there you have it, folks. The World Chess Championship 2018, Game 5. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for other games coming up from the World Championship. And as I always say, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.